And here to discuss the situation is Cliff Albright, co-founder of the organization Black Voters Matter. Mr. Albright, good to see you again. Welcome to The World Tonight.
Good to see you again.
Cliff, the evidence suggests, and many political observers agree, that black voters made the difference in the 2020 presidential election. Black voters in South Carolina and elsewhere in the South, they made Joe Biden the frontrunner, propelling him to the nomination. And then on election night, black voters in Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, Atlanta essentially handed him the election. So in January of this year, black voters in Metro Atlanta elected Reverend Warnock and Jon Ossoff to the Senate and gave Democrats control of the U.S. Senate. Is this kind of political influence being wielded by black voters ultimately what's behind the voter suppression legislation that we're seeing?
Definitely. You hit it right on the head. That's all that this is about. This is not about voter fraud. We know that the Georgia Secretary of State acknowledged that there was no kind of voter fraud. There was no irregularities. He certified that not once, not twice, but 3 times with the Georgia elections. In fact, some of the very Georgia Republicans that are voting for these voter suppression bills have actually, in preliminary hearings, have actually said, you know what, a lot of this is being driven by voter fraud, which, we think that some people it's in people's minds, right? They said this, they've admitted this even in the hearings, but then when you get out in front of the cameras or when you get in some other hearings or in some other interviews, they're saying, oh, we have to do something about this election fraud issue. So they know exactly what this is. It's nothing but a pure power grab. It has nothing to do with voter fraud. It has nothing to do with election integrity. In fact, anytime you hear election integrity, what you need to hear is voter suppression, because that's really all that this is about. They're mad that we out-organized them, not only in November, but in January as well. And this is what they're doing, and not just here in Georgia, but in states all across this country.
You know, Cliff, I'm listening to you and I'm reminded of a conversation that you and I had during the election, during the campaigning, and you were up from sun up to sundown with your organization getting out the vote, including creating black votercades. What is your organization doing now, and what are other activist groups doing to fight these measures that Georgia Republicans are trying to implement?
Yeah, we've got 2 main strategies here in Georgia. The first is kind of an in-state strategy, and it's a corporate accountability strategy. Like, what we recognize is that a lot of these Republicans that are trying to push this legislation, they're not responsive to black voters. Heck, they're not even responsive to their own voters, right? They won't even vote for things that their own base wants to see them do. So what we're doing is we're saying, well, look, we've got pressure points other than the legislators themselves. So we're going after the corporations that are based right here in this state, right here in this city even. The city that prides itself on being the city too busy to hate. Evidently, a lot of these companies are too busy to care about voter suppression. So we're putting pressure on places like Coca-Cola, like Delta, like Home Depot, like UPS. These are Georgia-based companies that we're telling them, you can't just sit on the sidelines. You've got to get involved in this fight, because we're your employees, we're your consumers, we're your neighbors. You've got an obligation to fight for this democracy and to fight for voters just as much as they would fight for their company if this was legislation that was attacking their industry. But the fact of the matter is, it's not just that they're sitting on the sidelines, they're actually complicit in the voter suppression, because all of these companies have donated, not just to Republicans in general, they've donated millions of dollars just to the people that are sponsoring these voter suppression bills. So they've actually helped contribute to the problem that's gotten us to this point. They need to be a part of the solution.
And as you mentioned, Cliff, Coca-Cola has been a target of these campaigns because it's headquartered in Atlanta. And you mentioned the connections between the money that they give to Republican lawmakers as lobbyists and then the corporate social responsibility programs they run in their communities. What is happening, though, at the very local level in Georgia legislature? I know we've talked about the federal and members of Congress, but is this also a local challenge at the state legislatures of corporations being involved with voter suppression legislation?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's the state. In fact, more so in the state law is all about the state legislature. It's about the state representatives. It's about the state senators. But it's also about local power, right? Because part of what we're doing is that we're trying to address their own business contracts and relationships. So, just as an example, we have partners in one of our counties, Hancock County, which is over 70% black, and one of the representatives that, in fact, the worst of the representatives has been pushing the worst of these voter suppression bills. In addition to being a representative, he's also happened to be the county attorney in Hancock County, Georgia. So our organizers there got together. They did a protest at their county commission, demanding that their county commission fire this representative from being the county's attorney, arguing that if he's going to be out there at the state level trying to push voter suppression bills, then he has no business being their county attorney in a county that's over 70% black. So this week, we're actually taking the fight to the chambers of commerce. The state chamber of commerce has issued statements that are lukewarm, to say the least. So we're taking it to the local chambers of commerce in all the counties where we have partners. Again, there's many dimensions to this battle.
Hey, Cliff, this is so important. We want to take a break and come back. Stay with us, please, because we would like to talk to you more about Black Voters Matter and what an important work you're doing. We'll be back with more right after the break with Cliff Hall. And welcome back to The World Tonight. We are talking to Cliff Albright. He's the leader of Black Voters Matter. And Cliff, Naira and I were talking to you in the previous segment about the importance of what's going on right now with voter suppression and what Republican-led legislators are doing in 43 states to try to block and suppress the black vote. I've got to ask you about H.R. 1. We know the House has passed it, but the Senate has to deal with it right now, and they could face a filibuster, which, of course, Minority Whip James Clyburn says that would be a catastrophe. Please explain where it stands in the Senate and what must be done.
Yeah, the short version is what must be done is that we've got to end the filibuster. There is no chance that there's going to be 10 Republicans in this Senate in this year of 2021 that are going to vote in favor of H.R. 1 or H.R. 4, which is just as important, in fact, arguably more so. But there's not going to be 10 Republicans. That means that you've got to end the filibuster. And in order to do that, it's going to take the full weight, not just of Chuck Schumer trying to keep his Democratic caucus in line. It's going to take the full weight of the White House. Joe Biden is going to have to get involved in this battle. He's been resistant to ending the filibuster, but there's no way that those bills will pass. And at the end of the day, if those bills don't pass, you've got two problems. One, it's not just those bills, it's any bills that they would really be trying to pass on his agenda for the rest of these 2 years. But the other issue is this: if they don't act now on these voting rights bills, and they let these states get away with the voter suppression that's taking place, voter suppression that would not be possible if these bills had already been passed. But if they allow this to continue, there won't be a Democratic majority in 2022. There won't, in neither the House nor the Senate, right? And basically what you'll be looking at is a 2-year presidency, because then we'll be right back to the Obama years with nothing but stalemates, right? And so even if for no other reason, putting aside like just good democracy or protecting black voting rights, just self-interest should make them want to take on and end the filibuster so that they can get things passed. It's just a matter of power. We gave it to them by risking our lives in this runoff election. Now they've got to use the power that we've given them to end the filibuster.
All right, thank you.